Welcome to Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior. I am Pei Yi. I'm a parenting and teen challenging behavior specialist at Rainbow Parenting Practice. Over the last 30 years, I've worked with children, teenagers, and then families with various complex needs across different settings. But it is my personal story, being a troubled teenager, that led me to the creation of my innovative parenting method, Thriving Together Parenting Method. It can help you and your team to have a more loving, respect-driven relationship and the happiness and harmony in your family home in 90 days. No matter what challenging behavior it is, how challenging it has been, and for however long your family has been in a difficult place. Many families came to me when they were in crisis or at breaking point. My TTP method is the secret to their transformative family lives. It can be yours too. I am thrilled for you to be here, and that possibly means you are a successful but stressed out parent who is managing a very demanding job but struggling to know what to do and how to help your troubled teen who is stuck in patterns of challenging behavior. You're fed up with trying everything but nothing works. You're looking for solutions yesterday and are determined to do whatever it takes to help your teen and family thrive. At Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior, I will share all the insights I've learned from working with families and their teenagers over the years. I will not hold back. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome to the show. It's Pei Yi and Belle again, my co-host teenagers. And remember, remember I told you, I share with the audience, if you have not seen Belle in person, you have to go to my YouTube website because Belle is really wise beyond her. Although she's only 17 years old. Right, but welcome to the show today. And as usual, Belle and I are going to draw the cards to decide what we will talk about today. So do you think we need to introduce these cards again, Belle?
No, I think it's fine. I think we can leave it.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's do the cards then. Right. Do you want to do you know what? Why don't I pick a card this time? Because last time you did it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just gonna whatever it is. Okay, this card is shouting out here. This is a bit of a dark.
Ooh.
It's pretty dark.
What's it about? Is it religion?
No, it's about hating being on my own. So hating being on my own.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, Belle and I usually just we just ponder a little bit and talk about how we're gonna take this as we talk about our show. Everything we discuss is unscripted. So what first came to your mind, Belle, about hate being on my own?
People who don't have any friends or feel alone and within the friends they have.
I think I'm in a similar thoughts, actually, in terms of being on their own. And I also wonder if there's an element of not being understood, because that could feel quite a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced this when you were a teenager? I mean, you're still a teenager, but I mean, like earlier years.
Yeah, definitely, definitely I have.
I mean, what were those moments you were on your own and you actually didn't like it?
What were the moments?
Yeah, any particular moments?
There's definitely been a few. I mean, not anymore, but for a few years, I'd go in and out of feeling like that. But I remember there was one time where I fell out of all my friends when I was like 14. Fell out of all my friends and I was going through a hard time already. And then I'd just broken up with my boyfriend. So that I felt very alone then. That's the most alone I've probably felt. And it's a really not nice feeling, I don't think. There's a feeling worse.
Now, I'm just thinking how many teenagers are like out there are actually feeling so on their own just now. Because I think we spoke about this many times, is how difficult it is to be a teenager and how teenagers are always and most largely misunderstood.
Mhm.
You know, the things I'm
Yeah.
hearing is like teenagers are so selfish and they're so hormonal,
Mhm.
they're so disrespectful, they don't care about
Mhm.
other people's feeling about
Yeah.
themselves. And
Mhm.
they just, so a lot of things are being like I heard through, my professional life, it has been quite negative. But
Mhm.
I think like we spoke about many times that they're just being misunderstood. And when people are feeling misunderstood or not understood,
Yeah.
I think it is really a lonely place to be. And
Yeah.
I wonder what is really going through to the teenager's mind though.
Mhm. Um, in
What
general,
Yeah. Okay. So say if you that were hypothetically, if you were that teenager, right, you just like drove everybody crazy.
yeah.
And if you feel like misunderstood or people are saying like, oh, you're just selfish, and you don't care anything about other people, about yourself. I mean, how would you respond to that? And
I
what would,
think
what would
you'd
be the things
feel,
you want to say to people, I suppose, is what I'm curious about.
I think you'd want to like say to them, because when you feel like that and when people are saying these things, you feel very frustrated because obviously if you are being like that, you're keeping a lot of things in or a lot is bubbling up and you're acting out a bit, even if you don't realize. And so for people to further shut you out and further isolate you of what you're going through, you'd probably just feel really overwhelmed and
Mm.
like you'd want to tell people like you don't know what's going on. Like I just because when you're like that, all you need is someone who unconditionally supports you and
Mm-mm.
helps you through it because that's to get through anything, having friends is like the most important thing. Like I
Mm-mm.
know that now, like I have such good friends and whatever happens, like if you have good friends, it's so much easier to like deal with things.
Mm-mm. But what about those who don't have friends? And what about those, you know, when teenagers, there are a lot of conflicts at family home, or they don't have a good relationship with their families or their parents. And I will imagine they must feel so lonely and so alone in the journey,
Yeah.
thinking, who do I turn to?
Yeah.
Who do I speak to? I can't speak to my
Mhm.
parents because we don't have a
Yeah.
good relationship, or they don't listen, or they're always arguing,
Mhm.
or they're too busy
Yeah.
with telling me what to do, or instead of trying to understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I wonder what would those teenager do or can
Mm.
do, because you feel really trapped, no?
Yeah. I don't know. Um well, it depends on you'd probably feel very self-loathing. You'd probably feel very insecure because you're not getting confidence from other people. So with that, I mean, you could be quite self-destructive,
Mm-mm.
probably.
Mm-mm.
But what do you think?
Mm. I'm just thinking it's like a vicious circle. If you don't have friends you can go to. I mean, okay, I think we need to be really clear because there are times you want to be on your own, right? You
Yeah,
want to be in your own space, you want to be doing your own thing, you want it to be, just not to be bothered as a
yeah,
teenager. But I think what I'm thinking more in the line of hate being on my own is more the emotional isolation, the emotional disconnection, with the people around the teenagers.
hmm
And that's where my head is going. And
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about have if you don't have any friends that you can really connect with, and if you are in a family situation, an environment where there's a lot of challenges, like relational challenges, like people are arguing, you don't talk, fights and all these things,
yeah,
it could feel quite emotionally isolated and disconnected on so many different ways. And then what we're going to have is the teenager struggling so great emotionally. And
yeah,
I think the risk is the teenagers either acting out in their behavior, which is really angry,
mhm.
or it could be taking risks.
Further going.
Yeah, like drinking up.
Going into more of an isolation and shutting out everything and feeling
Yeah.
really insecure and unconfident and lonely probably is
Yes,
also
that could also be a route, isn't it? It's like I'm going to isolate myself. I'm not going to speak to anyone, and I will just be within my own bubble to protect myself because I'm the only person I can trust, which is
yeah.
me. The other part is I'm so angry. I don't know how to express this, so I'm going to act out to manage my feelings, which is a lot of young people express their struggles outwardly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or some people express differently, like hurting themselves in a different ways. And the other part is the mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're constantly like in the situation of isolating yourself, emotionally disconnecting and being in that trapped bubble and without an outlet, it's you're more likely to be at risk of having a mental health challenges and difficulties, whether it's depression
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's something else. So
And even more at risk of not being able to get through them and overcoming them because having some strong support is like one of the most important things.
exactly. And then you
So yeah, vicious cycle, like what you said before, like it's hard. You feel very stuck.
Mhm. And then the young people, I'm not saying this is for definite, but because the young people are struggling with managing their emotional disconnect and struggles, they don't know how to problem solve. And some young teenagers might end up hurting themselves
Yeah, yeah.
as a getaway. Or
Mm-hmm.
some people might, if it's so bad, so disconnected, so much overwhelmed feeling, they might actually try to take their own life,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're not saying this is definitely for that end to that end,
No,
but we're
yeah.
saying there's a risk.
These things can happen.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
risk of this. So it's really important to think about the teenager's emotional world, really,
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
not about a teenager being selfish. It's not being
Mm-hmm.
a teenager being a hormonal.
No,
And teenagers cannot choose to have hormones or not have the sexual
mm.
hormone to be growing at that current time. So stop it between 11 and 17 years old. Hormones will not grow. It's not possible. So
Mm.
it is really about educating the young person what might be going through and then
Yeah.
supporting educating the parents and the professionals is what might the teenagers going through. How can you support the teenagers in this journey?
Mhm.
Mm-mm. That's what I'm thinking.
But it's hard though because if someone is feeling so isolated and so trapped, either they might not have a good relationship with their parents or they
Mm-mm.
might not want to share because they're not feeling confident with their emotions enough to share it, probably.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
know. And that's why having the person, even just that one person around the young person is so important. And if the parents can be that person, it could be like an uncle, an auntie, or
yeah.
a guide, a teacher in school.
I would even say, like, if I was a parent,
Mm-hmm.
I think when teenagers feel that level of isolation, like we talked about earlier, they're either acting out
Mm-hmm.
or reining in and like
Yeah.
shutting themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a parent, if my teenager wasn't like confident in communicating how they felt, I would just pay attention to the outbursts that happen because I know that when I was feeling like that, every now and again I would have an outburst and everything would come out and I'd
Mm-hmm.
cry or I'd have an argument with my mum or it would all come out at some point.
Yep.
And if I was a parent, you know, I would pay attention in those moments and really dedicate to those moments and
Absolutely.
talk to my teenager because I think that's when it comes out. Because that's
Yeah.
all the bottled up isolation and emotion that's not been able to be with anyone else coming out. So.
Absolutely. Also in those silence as well, like
Yeah,
you blew
exactly.
out. I blew out when I was a teenager too.
Yeah.
But some teenager withdrew,
Mm-hmm.
and their silence or the changing their behavior is a lot of indication as to actually
Yeah.
my teenager might be struggling. How can I help them? Yes, we're
Mm-hmm.
arguing in this household and we don't get along just now.
Yeah.
How can I actually park that and have my attention on my teenager? And
Mm-hmm.
there is actually an increasing, like, mental health challenges among teenagers, not just because of COVID,
Yeah.
but because of the challenges of being a teenager and the
Mm-hmm.
societal expectation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
just remember, and there's always a story to, how do I say these things? There are multiple stories to an event. Right. I always remember this story that someone told me when I was
Yeah.
working in the public sector. Is this person, how happened to this person? All right, this person is a really hard worker, right? She or he always come to work really, like, every time when she's at work, she was at work, or he was at work. I don't remember it was a he or she. I'm just gonna be a he. Okay, he was at work. Then he was really committed, but then there would be times he would disappear, and then people would not be like knowing where he was, and then just didn't show up. And then of course the policy is like, you know what? There's certain policy in place. If you have so many absence, then you have to go through the policy to take action.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it might be lead to dismissal or whatever. But the story turned out to be actually when the time he wasn't or she wasn't showing up, she was actually locked up at home by their partners.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so she was actually he or she. I can't decide if it's he or she because I don't remember, because was going through a really difficult time at home. But from the outset, what we people see is actually there's a person who's not coming to work, and
Yeah.
that is assumptions.
And it's important to pay attention to these
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like there's assumptions we make about an event because what we learn from the past or what we think we know from the past. And it's the same for the teenagers. Do you know, when you feel like your teenagers are not like acting themselves, then you will have some assumptions. You'll
Yeah.
be assuming he's just been a teenager.
Yeah.
Or you can have alternative story thinking, what might be my teenager going through? Because he wasn't like this. What triggered the change in my teenager's behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what parents struggle with a lot,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of like, "Urgh."
I've definitely seen that with like parents, if teenagers do go quiet or act out, I think it's overwhelming for the parent because like they might not, well, obviously because they don't know why, but it's such a difference in maybe how their child had been, or maybe it's not enough of the difference that they really notice, but um I can imagine that'd be really overwhelming to know how
Yeah,
to deal with, especially if your teenager's like angry at you or starts arguments and there's that relationship because you don't know how things are going to go if you do have a conversation.
absolutely. But if I was a parent, right, I would actually prefer my teenager have a blowout,
Yeah.
like being angry and, you
Yeah.
know, because at least
I
I
agree.
know I can do something about that. It's when those ones that have been really silent and then withdrawing, that was a really difficult one for parents.
Yeah.
Because you don't know they don't know where to start,
No.
you know? I'm just trying to think about my experience of being a teenager because there were days definitely I feel disconnected with my friends. I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about this. I didn't have
Yeah,
any
yeah, we have
friends.
to.
I didn't have any friends. But and also what I just thinking about how my parents were with me back then because they were really busy and they were trying to, you know, build on their business and stuff. And there were definitely times I felt quite alone in the journey, thinking like nobody understood me. And
Yeah.
my teachers didn't understand me, my friends didn't understand me. I didn't understand myself. You know, I just remember how miserable those days were.
Yeah.
And I came through, right? And that's despite all the love and my parents give it to me. I still struggle being a teenager, not alone the teenagers facing these days.
Yeah.
There was nothing for me. It was just when I left home, there was a wood, there's rivers. We go climb trees and stuff. It's really that simple. And you go through down the door, you go like go to your neighbors and get stuff. You know, and it is
Yeah, yeah.
like that. But now there's so many challenges. There's no online grooming, there's no sexual exploitation, or wasn't as bad as right.
Yeah.
And there was
Yeah.
just easy and simple.
Yeah.
And imagine that was simple life, more simpler life back then. And right now it's even more challenging for teenagers.
Yeah. On that subject, like I feel like nowadays when teenagers do feel so isolated and detached from whatever's going on, I mean, social media, you can see your friends or you can see other people, like having fun, going out, taking photos of their friends. And I can imagine how if that wasn't what you had at that moment, that could feel even more, would knock your confidence. Like I know if I was in that position and all of my friends were going out, or if I wanted to have friends, I didn't, and I saw all these people in big happy friend groups and stuff, like I would feel even more like shut out because you're being reminded of it all the time.
Absolutely. But that's a really good point though, Belle. In terms of social media, because these youngsters feel so isolated and so emotional disconnected, so they
Yeah.
seek out in the social media platform.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
try to find friends because these people don't know them. They don't know the challenges they have gone through. But people can speak to you online, which is really common these days.
Yeah.
I think and they do seek out. And then that's when all the danger is coming in to facing the youngsters, because these people pretend to be nice people. They pretend want to be listening to you. When you're really feeling really lonely, when you feel like there's nobody understanding me in my environment or in my family, in my friendship group or my school, in my community. So, but on this note, I did a recording on online grooming. So the audience can go and listen to that
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it's released. But that's a really good point, though, about social media.
Yeah.
And the other part is like when you're feeling so isolated. I've seen a lot of youngsters, teenagers, like would just would just like glue them to any group of friends they come across that who will accept them. Or they might not be the best possible influence for them. It could be
No.
the wrong crowds for them, So coming back to is really this emotional
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, exactly. Like if you're in that position and you feel so isolated, any sort of attention is going to feel like a lot more to you. So, yeah, that could be a positive and a negative thing. Like, if someone can tell you are vulnerable, or if you're in the wrong friendship group and they know that you're a bit vulnerable and they're the sort of people to sort of prey on that a bit or to use that to their advantage, like, it's quite a dangerous position to be in. Or even if you feel like that and then you're surrounded with other people that feel the same, even if they're nice people, even if they're all just going through their own things, that can also feel isolating because you don't have someone that has the emotional strength to support you, even if you are not
Absolutely.
good friends. So that can also, even if you do have friends and everyone else is also in the same boat, like you can feel very isolated probably.
Exactly, because then you can see things from other perspective or other
Yeah.
lens, but that lens is nobody understood us. My parents are this, the teachers this, the school are these, and we are these.
Yeah.
We belong to each other.
Yeah.
Which
If you're all just feeding off of each other's
yeah,
energy, it's not good. And like you can tell that because when you're with a friend then you both feel very happy or your friend groups are very happy, talkative. Like when you do feel sad, like I know me, like whenever I in the past if I felt sad and I was going with these friend groups that everyone felt the same and it was more just either we escaped to or, we didn't feel good. But with my good friends, even if I felt really low, I would go to school or I would go see them and I would forget about it for a few hours because I'd be talking and having fun. And that's like the most important thing because it just keeps everything in balance. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it would be really difficult, like um especially if you have your friends, if you have found your crowd and you love your friends, but they're not good for you at that point in time. It's not benefiting you, it's making you feel worse. So I don't know, like what would you do in that situation? Because
I
you don't want to
know.
lose those friends, but um you don't want to keep making yourself
Mm-mm.
feel worse.
The thing is, it's really sad, isn't it? Because that is the only group of friends you think you can have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in that group, you actually find your belonging. That's
Yeah.
what the people, because we're human beings. We need to connect with someone, and we're
Mm-hmm.
wired to connect with someone. So
Yeah.
the innate needs there is to be connected with a group or a community. And
Mm-hmm.
even myself, right? I've been living in Scotland for what, 20 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
really don't have many Asian friends in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
I only have a couple of Asian friends,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
as soon as I see an Asian person, seriously, like instantly click. It's like, oh my God, what do you want to swap numbers? Right? Seriously,
Yeah.
it's mad. It's like
Yeah.
instantly click, no matter who this person is.
Yeah.
Or somebody say that, oh, I've been to Taiwan. I was like, well, where have you been? It's that
Yeah.
instant connection because that it's just like drawn. And it's the same for teenagers. They want that. And the sad thing is they do not have the strength to say this friendship is not a crowd I need to be with. I
Mhm.
need to go and speak to my person, whoever that is, or don't have a person. There's always a professional the teenagers
Mhm.
can speak to. I think that's what
Mhm.
we need to speak about a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they seek support is they need people around them to support them to be able to make better decisions.
Mhm.
And that's so important. We're coming back to the place of that person, who that person can be. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's also about, I mentioned many times, is that the teenagers need skills,
Yeah.
life skills. They need problem solving skills. They need to know how they can make different decisions.
Yeah, because these are the almost years for learning that. Like there's more, but
Mhm.
when you're a teenager, like I know for a fact everything, all my experiences, everything I've been through, like I'm so glad because I have learned those skills and
Mhm.
I have had the friends to
Mhm.
give me the confidence to learn and to learn from them. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But when you don't have that, I feel like when things happen, you wouldn't have the confidence or the emotional strength to learn from something that's happened rather than just experience it and feel awful about it and
Mhm.
wallow in it and have other friends that are wallowing and things like that. And like
Mhm.
it's just a really toxic environment to be in with yourself and with your friends.
Absolutely. So it all comes back to being able to recognize their feelings, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, in Asia, I mean, in Scotland, probably the same, correct me if I was wrong. I mean, people really don't talk about feelings.
Mm-hmm.
People ask, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm feeling really terrible today. Do you really want to listen to my terrible day?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people generally just say, I'm fine. It's been
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I grew up in a country that don't talk about feelings. And I mean, in my past 20 odd years of professional life in Scotland, people don't, I mean, parents don't talk about feelings with their children either, because it's
Yeah.
not something we were taught, and people be thinking
Yeah.
our feelings is a weakness, you don't do this, you
Yeah,
don't do
that's a really interesting point because I definitely think that like my mum's generation, my dad's generation, even with my friends' parents, I've noticed they're a lot more emotionally disconnected
hmm
than our generation.
hmm
So even that could possibly feel like it's hard to reach out to your parents because there is that difference.
yeah.
And that's probably partly why our generation is so intense of our feelings, I think, because we
Mhm.
do genuinely just feel them like so much. We talk about them and we're open about them. Well, most of the time, obviously, not all the time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
don't know where I was going with that.
no, but
Yeah.
that emotional literacy is so important, right? Is
Mhm.
talk about feelings, and feelings are not just about I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling sad. There's also feeling of
Mhm.
disappointment, shame, guilt, a lot of the embarrassment, feelings people don't talk about.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that emotional literacy is really important for the parents and for the teenagers to know what, and I know it's really it's like you're caught in 20 in a cycle because teenage brain is developing and emotional part is
Yeah.
pretty, the last few parts to be developed. So how do you, there's even more so to teach the teenagers about emotional literacy, about what the feelings are. Because in my line of work, we always say behind every behavior, there is a need. And the
Mhm.
need, you will have a feeling around that need. When you're hungry,
Mhm.
you might become angry, but it's because you're
Yeah.
hungry, you want to eat, right? So then that's teaching parents and the teenagers about emotional literacy is so important. It's about what are my feelings here? And because the feelings is driving our behavior in terms
Yeah.
of how we respond. If I'm upset, angry, I might go, "Rawr," or
Mhm.
if I'm really sad, I want to cry. But sometimes
Yeah.
these feelings could be mixed up, because
Mhm.
you're like, am I actually, how am I feeling? Because I'm doing this, I'm not sure. right? So it could be really mixed up. So that's why it's important to emotional literacy for the teenagers and for the parents is to look at these feelings and then address the feelings. So then it's easier to address the behavior.
And I was just thinking there, like, you know how we were talking about how we should talk about how you can go to professionals and
Yeah.
teachers and these sorts of people. I think that's so important, especially on the fact that if you are a teenager and you are going through this,
Yeah.
and you are talking to other teenagers about these things, whether you're talking to anyone about it, whether you're completely isolated, whether your friends that you are talking to about it are very toxic, like, I think going to an adult with that generational separation will actually give you a different maybe help you see it in a new light, or put it in simpler terms, or like less intense, and like will help you lay it out in a different way, because of that generational change. And I think that's so important when you do feel isolated, because you will
Absolutely.
always feel isolated unless you find a way to look at it differently, or do something differently, or I don't know, like, it's because when you feel isolated, you're so stuck. You're not moving. You just feel stuck. So yeah,
Yeah.
an adult perspective or a different generational perspective would probably be very valuable.
Absolutely, because you don't know how to get unstuck. You're just
Yeah.
feeling so overwhelmed, and whichever way you turn, nothing is changing.
Yeah.
So coming back to that part of speaking to someone, and
Yeah.
also the parents as well, though. Like, I mean, parents will mostly be saying, like, the ones I work with would be like, they don't speak to us, they don't talk to us, they don't. When I ask them questions, it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is, I want the parents to remember this. Don't be deterred by the responses, because it's really possible at that moment in time when you ask them questions, they don't know what the answers are. They don't know how to articulate what is really going through their
Yeah.
mind just now. So don't be deterred or put off by that. Just like, there's no point asking, because they just say, I don't know. Because the parents, you can always guess and wonder. Because I wonder if it's a friendship that is upsetting you. I wonder
Yeah.
if it's about this. I wonder if it's about that. And I think the message to the parents is about, when you have a conversation with your teenagers, whatever it is, it needs to be small, multiple, and concise. You're not going to have a 10-minute spiel about certain thing. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on. And Albert told you so many times about this. And da, 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 da. No, it has to be in a teenager's time. But all they need to know is when they are ready to speak, you'll be there to listen. And you want to be wondering, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be really helpful for the parents. And
Definitely.
yeah, but for the teenagers as well, though. The
For the
teenagers.
teenagers. Yeah. For the teenagers, um, I would encourage the teenagers to be curious about the relationships around them, and whether they think how they feel is benefiting from this or not. And I'd very heavily encourage them to talk to someone professional or a teacher, and not to overthink reaching out for that help, and genuinely see it as an opportunity to see what you're going through from a different perspective, and have some strong professional support with it, because yeah.
Absolutely. Because you know what? One thing I learned is that teenagers will have this assumption is nobody will and can understand what I'm going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the teenagers,
Definitely.
remember, every single adult you speak to will have been a teenager themselves.
Yeah.
They do understand to a certain degree what you're going through.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other part is about, parents often forget about this. I mean, teenagers too. If you don't know how to articulate or speak about certain things, you can text. People love texting. People
Yeah.
read text messages. That's a good way to talk about these things. And also, people, in olden days when there's no emails, no messages, you write letters.
Yeah.
You can still write small note for your teenager, and a teenager can write small note to the parents. It's like, you know what, I'm really struggling with this, and I'm not sure you will understand me, but here it goes. Right. So it is really a mutual process. It's looking for those signs. It's in terms of how my teenagers has been different these
Yeah.
days, and how can we be curious about what they are bringing in, what is the
Yeah.
changing their behavior. But today, the focus is about, the teenagers being on their own, but not because of they choose to, but because of the circumstances left them feeling so alone, so on their own, and it could be very detrimental for their well-being when if they're in this place for too long. And I think today we touch about a lot of other things we talk about as well, Bale, like, how do they get away from the friendship group when they are actually in that cycle? We talk about, positive friends and join take up a hobby and all these things. So the audience go back to listen to, they're all
we definitely have talked about things to do with this.
So they're all interlinked, but we want the parents today and the teachers as well to be curious about the driving force of feeling emotional disconnected. That's the part we really want the teenagers and parents to focus on, is the emotional literacy, to support your teens, then give them the skills to be able to tackle whatever out there in the world they're facing.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. But this is really I feel depressed for teenagers.
Yeah, it's a very sad card.
It really is.
Yeah.
I keep drawing sad cards these days. No, but it's been a really good chat, and I hope that the parents and the teenagers will find it really helpful, and then
I hope
be able to pay. And I think we touched quite a lot of different points about different things, so hopefully these will be helpful for them.
Yeah.
Thanks
so much.
Thanks for Belle, and thanks for the audience for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. If you find this show helpful, please hit that follow or subscribe button. It does wonders for the show, so more people can find Teen Talk Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior organically. If you have any questions about anything we talk about, please drop me a line at pei@teentalkpod.com. That is PEI-I@teentalkpod.com. I read every email I get. Whether that's an episode idea, a guest recommendation, or just a simple note about how the show has impacted you. I'd love to hear from you. I am Pei, and I'll see you on the next episode.